COVID was certainly a difficult time for the industry. Our whole industry is based upon entrance into facilities, right? And we had no ability to get into a facility during the, if you want to call it the COVID period, how about the COVID years, right? But we're coming out of it, and there's quite a few lessons that personally I think there are to be learned or gained from the experience that we've had, right? No, I think number one, people today understand bad video, right? We've been forced, many of us have been forced to sit in front of a screen, maybe not a very high quality screen because companies weren't prepared to give every offsite employee the money for to buy a new computer screen or a nice 37-inch screen, whatever it might have been. And so we put up with quite a bit, right? We put up with poor bandwidth. Okay, so we know what happens when the video distribution is not great or sometimes not even good, right? And so people have come out of this with the feeling of, I understand what a good image looks like, and you see in the market today, there's not any kind of acceptance for poor quality. Right? So, I mean, for me, that's an advantage for us because, part of what we want to do as an industry is to provide people with a nice experience, and part of that is having a good image. Number two, on lessons learned, certainly I would hope anyway that throughout the industry we've learned that you can't depend upon any one source to provide you with a solution, right? Because there have been many issues with component shortages, with product shortages, with inability to deliver, and we've had to contend with that. And let's face it, all of us have had to keep the doors open, right? So we had to deliver product and we had to deliver solutions to the customer. And having all your eggs in one basket just doesn't work. And I guess if I could make a third point here, I believe that has forced many integration companies or many end users to look at new or different technologies that perhaps they would not have in, if you want to call it, good times. And so many of the perhaps smaller companies in the industry that have excellent technology, that have moved beyond some of the big horses, now the integrators are taking a look at them and in many cases being pleasantly surprised at the level of technology that they can deliver. So I think all in all, it's been very, very good for the industry. If I could take a negative and turn it into a positive. In some respects, we were fortunate. I would say we've got a bright management team, some luck in there. One of the things we saw almost from the beginning of COVID when we started questioning our customers was, the questions are, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to your business? What about your customers, et cetera, so on. And one thing that was consistent was that nobody was receiving any order cancellations. Right, so not everything, but many things were delayed, but nobody was talking about a cancellation. And it was in one of our management meetings at HQ that we said, this is odd, okay? And either the world's going to come to an end when everything is canceled in one day, or the floodgates are going to open at some point in time, and we're all going to be in trouble if we're not prepared. And at that point, as a company, we rolled the dice and said, we want to be prepared. So we went out to the market and we spent quite a bit of money, and much more than we normally would have, on inventory purchases to make certain that we were going to have the product to be able to deliver if and when those floodgates ever open. And we were fortunate because we had the inventory. All throughout COVID, even up till now, we're able to deliver product within 2 or 3 weeks. And for me, it was just a great management staff that we were able to plan this and execute. Component supply issues during COVID were real. Right? There were many instances, and we've heard many stories, and in fact have been on the bad end of receiving poor components. So assuring quality of what you were receiving was absolutely critical, and we had to add extra inspection steps, not so much on the component because you really can't tell until they're assembled onto a PC board, right? but there were times when we received counterfeit components, right? And of course, it takes an effort to find them, it takes an effort to replace them, and I think it was absolutely critical that during COVID, the quality of the product was out there, right? Because in many situations, I'm sure people were in a rush to ship so that they could generate the revenue to pay their employees, all on down the line, that whole string of events. And we went through extra pains to make sure that once we assembled our products, that they performed the specification and added extra inspection steps and testing specs in there because of the fact that we did receive counterfeit parts. As the industry continues to move to AV over IP, many concerns come into play. And especially when you start talking, we go back to the component issue. Are the components real? Where have they come from? Who's manufactured them? What's inside them? What could potentially be inside them, right? So, okay, here we're dealing with networks. And there's always concern over the quality of the network, not just in terms of being able to distribute over it, whether it be video or audio, but who can gain access to this information at any point in time and what can you do with it, right? So security has become even more important now, even though for the most part in our industry, a lot of the video and audio is moved over separate networks, not over your, say, corporate network per se, but there can be a lot of confidential information there, and so you need to be cognizant of where your components are coming from. It's absolutely critical that you know this and inspect for it and understand who your main supplier is, what your supply chain consists of, where those parts are coming from. It's a concern for us, it's a concern for everybody. Can there be interoperability in the AV sector? Yes. Will there be? That's an entirely different question. And I think not anytime soon. Probably not in my lifetime. Okay. There's well, you know, I don't want to say there's, well, yeah, okay. If I don't want to say it, I shouldn't say it. But there's too many selfish motives at work here. Okay. People like their own technology. People like to brag about their own technology and to promote their own technology. And, you know, for the manufacturers per se, maybe the best thing is not what the best thing is for the consumer in this sector. I don't know, that's a really tough question. We could debate this for hours. Interoperability, in fact, is a great marketing discussion. Okay, that we can work with X and X can work with Y. But in practice, how many end users really want a combination of like equipment, right? Because there just tends to be too much finger pointing. And personally, I don't think it's in the best interest of anyone now, okay? But should be on everybody's drawing board. I mean, it works for the broadcast sector. There's no reason why it can't work for us.